Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajakacarya Ashtotar Sadasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Samaved Bhaktavrinda Ki Thai Gaur Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, entitled The Renunciation of Kardama Muni, text number 30. Sviyam Vakyam Vritam Kartum Avatirnosi Me Grihe Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam Bhaktanam Manavardhanaha Sviyam Vakyam Vritam Kartum Avatirnosi Me Grihe Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam Bhaktanam Manavardhanaha Sviyam Vakyam Vritam Kartum Avatirnosi Me Grihe Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam Bhaktanam Manavardhanaha Sviyam Vakyam Vritam Kartum Sviyam Vakyam Vritam Kartum Avatirnosi Me Grihe Chikirshur Jnanam Bhaktanam Manavardhanaha Sviyam Vakyam Vritam Kartum Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam Bhaktanam Manavardhanaha. Vaishnavis. Sviyam Vakyam Vritam Kartum Vatirnosi me grihe. Chikeshur Bhagavan Yanam Bhaktanam Manavardhanaha. Word to word meaning: Swiyam, your own. Vakyam, words. Ritam, true. Kartum, to make. Avatirnaha, descended. Asi, you are. Me grihe, in my house. Chikeshuhu, desirous of disseminating. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Jnanam, knowledge. Bhaktanam, of the devotees. Manam, the honor. Vardhanaham, who increases. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Kardama Muni said, "You, my dear Lord, who are always increasing the honor of your devotees, have descended in my home just to fulfill your word and disseminate the process of real knowledge." Purport. When the Lord appeared before Kardama Muni after his mature yoga practice, he promised that he would become Kardama's son. He descended as the son of Kardama Muni in order to fulfill that promise. Another purpose of his appearance is Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam, to distribute knowledge. Therefore he is called Bhaktanam Manavardhanaha, he who increases the honor of his devotees. By distributing Sankhya, he would increase the honor of the devotees. Therefore, Sankhya philosophy is not dry mental speculation. Sankhya philosophy means devotional service. How could the honor of the devotees be increased unless Sankhya were meant for devotional service? Devotees are not interested in speculative knowledge. Therefore, the Sankhya enunciated by Kapila Muni is meant to establish one firmly in devotional service. Real knowledge and real liberation is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in devotional service. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Quite grateful to get this opportunity to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam in the assembly of exalted Vaishnavas who have been spreading the Sankirtana movement in all the four corners of Australia. In the temple shop, sometimes they sell mridangas for small children, have you noticed? Then the kids, they buy them, and then they're very interested. They come and they bring their mridanga, and they would also like to play. The senior devotees who are playing mridanga, they'll come, they'll encourage the kid to play. So I feel like that young child coming in. Thank you for allowing me to participate in this glorification. As Sri Prahlad Prabhu was saying yesterday, Srimad Bhagavatam, reading that is also Sankirtan. So here, Kardama Muni is glorifying Lord Kapila. He is able to see the Lord twice. Once before in the earlier chapter where he was performing austerity for 10,000 years. The goal was to serve the mission of the Lord. It comes down through Lord Brahma, and Brahma gives him the instruction that you must increase the progeny. So he doesn't start his service straight away. He prepares his consciousness, because the activity of creating progeny is binding. So before getting into the service, he does austerity for 10,000 years. It's not that the order has come from the Supreme Lord, it's come down from Brahma, let me get into it straight away. He prepares his consciousness by performing austerities, and pleased with that austerity, that's how the purport today begins. When the Lord appeared before Kardama Muni after his mature yoga practice. So the practice of Kardama Muni was so strong that it attracted the mercy of the Lord, so he came, gave darshan. The whole scene is described as to how nicely the Lord's form is described, how he is standing on the Garuda. He's got 4 arms, the arms are decorated with club, conch, what else? Disc and lotus flower. The lotus is, and the conch is for the devotees, the Sudarshan and the Kaumodaki is for the demons. So Kardama Muni is overcome and he is drinking the beauty of the Lord through his eyes, and he is again offering prayers. A few points that stood out for me, at least in that set of prayers, is that Padara Vindam Bhavasindu Potam. Your lotus feet is like a vessel that can help one transcend and get out of this material existence. And your lotus feet are like umbrella which protects a devotee. Having glorified the Lord, Kardama Muni, as a dutiful disciple of Lord Brahma, he does devotion and he is about to execute the service of the Lord. At the same time, being very, very honest, he admits to the Lord that I've taken your darshan, but I'm going to ask you for something which I'm very ashamed of. However, my Lord, this is for your service. This service has come to me through Lord Brahma. I need to execute this service, and for that purpose, help me, arrange a nice wife for me. So he is dutiful, he is honest, and he admits his shortcomings, but still he is focused on the service to the Lord. And for that purpose he is asking for a nice wife. So as we know, the Lord blesses him and he says, your wishes are already fulfilled. I know your mind's desire. And that's when he says that Swayambhu Manu will come. He will give his daughter, Devahuti. She is very beautiful. You will get married to her. And what's the ultimate goal of life? That also you will attain. You will perfect the yoga practice. You will see me in every living being, and you will see every living being in me. And finally, you will attain perfection. Then he makes this promise. he promised that he would become Kardama's son. That's another biggest benediction a devotee can get. In few classes before this point was discussed that we should aspire for such higher gifts from the Lord, getting him as one's own son. That's the glory of bhakti. So that point covers the promise which the Lord makes, that I will appear as your son. Lord Kapila, my own expansion will, as an expansion I'll appear, and I will spread the knowledge of Sankhya. And I will give that knowledge to your wife, Devahuti, and thus she will also be delivered. So here we can see the dutiful nature of Kardama, how he fulfilled Lord Brahma's word that he gave to Lord Brahma, that he will increase the progeny, and then he got the blessings of Lord Brahma. And while Lord Brahma was glorifying Kardama Muni, he also uses the word Manada. He addresses Kardama Muni as Manada, as one who honors others, who is able to respect and treat everyone with respect. Manada, one who offers proper honor to others. The theme of honor is going to come repeatedly in this purport. So it begins with Kardama Muni honoring the words of Lord Brahma by following his instructions and creating progeny. So even in the dealings of Kardama Muni with Swayambhuva Manu, you can see how the nature of the two personalities are being brought out. Swayambhuva Manu is the emperor, but he doesn't come and show off his emperor's usual pride. Kardama Muni also doesn't show that he is a Brahmana, he is exalted. So both of them behave in a very nice way, and due to these dealings, Brahma glorifies Kardama Muni as Manada. Interestingly, even Parikshit Maharaj is described as Manavardhana, because he increased the honor of the Pandavas and the entire Pandu dynasty. So this word Vardhana means increases. So when something is added before that, so it increases what is before that. So if Mana Vardhana, so one who increases the honor. The Lord is called as Bhava Vardhana, one who increases the ecstasy of his devotees. So here we're going to see how Lord Kapila is bringing honor to devotees. There is this book called Teachings of Lord Kapila. What's the entire title of that book? Anyone remembers? Yeah, Teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti. So when we are trying to distinguish between the atheistic Kapila and the real incarnation of the Lord, what do we say? Lord Kapila, the son of Kardama and Devahuti. So, the Lord is bringing honor to their parents by taking birth in their family. This is one way that he is bringing honor. Mother Kunti will also say, Malayas eva chandanam. So, my dear Lord, you may choose to appear in any family, but you chose to appear in the Chandravamsa. Therefore, it's glorified. So here, just by appearing in the family of Kardama and Devahuti is honoring them. What are the other ways that Prabhupada says Lord Kapila is bringing honor to his family and the devotees? What are the other ways mentioned in the purport? Anyone likes to guess or recollect? What are the other ways that the Lord is bringing honor to his devotees? By speaking the Sankhya philosophy. Now, how is the Lord increasing the honor of the devotees? By speaking Sankhya philosophy. So that we'll move to that theme next. So what's your idea of Sankhya? What does the word Sankhya mean to you? We are not the body. Okay. Straight on to it. What does Sankhya mean? It's about the 24 elements. Okay. Second chapter of the Gita talks about Sankhya, and then later on also Krishna will talk about Sankhya. Anyone likes to recollect or guess? Sambandha. Sambandha between what? With the Jiva soul and the Super soul. Okay. Interesting. Any other points? Yes, it's all valid. So we will look at the literal meaning of Sankhya. This is from the foreword of Teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti, that book. Literally, Sankhya means to count, counting. And it has got an etymological meaning as well, as our corporate sadhu, Ravi, who's well versed in Bhagavatam, he said that the 24 elements. So analysis, a lucid analysis of the material elements, and it is very nicely explained. So this is what Sankhya means etymologically. And then as Mataji said, philosophically it means we don't just stop in the analysis and go into paralysis by analysis. Unless these analyses lead to you distinguishing between yourself and matter and connecting to Super Soul, there's no use in it. So that's when the philosophical understanding of Sankhya means to be able to distinguish between matter and spirit, and also be able to understand the owner, the creator and enjoyer of both. That's when the yoga part comes in, Sankhya Yoga. It's not just a matter of analyzing matter, but to be able to understand and have a system to systematically take you and connect you to the Supreme Absolute. From the scientists, they just look at the analysis part, and for them it is just metaphysics. It's nothing more than that. So they very skillfully take the spirit, when you want to explain spirit, which they don't want to, and then God, all of that comes in. So they skillfully avoid that. So they're just interested in analyzing matter. However, Sankhya Yoga is both a system of metaphysics. I'm just reading the quote from the foreword. Sankhya is both a system of metaphysics dealing with the elemental principles of physical universe. So this is the sthanam, the place where you're in, as Krishna says. This is your field of activity, the material world. You're not in the spiritual world yet. From here, you need to have a system to go back to the spiritual world. And that's what this definition talks about. Elemental principles of physical universe and a system of spiritual knowledge. It's not just talking about metaphysics, it also includes spiritual knowledge. And it's got its own methodology. So, as Mataji said, Sambandha, and there is a process which is Abhideya, and then naturally there will be a goal. So that is culminating in full consciousness of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So this is what Sankhya Yoga is about. So before we try to understand how Sankhya Yoga brings honor to the devotees, we need to know what Sankhya means, what Sankhya Yoga means. And as it is going to be explained by Lord Kapila, he gives the name as Adhyatmika Yoga. He does it in the next chapter when Mother Devahuti, in her humility, she draws out the mercy of the Lord Kapila, because she regrets that I've lived with Kardama Muni, but I've not taken advantage of him. Sometimes it happens to us, right? So many visiting devotees come, they give lectures and they go. We may not be able to take full advantage of their association. Later we regret. So here, Mother Devotee, having missed once, now I'm not going to miss the other chance, because this is my last chance. She glorifies the Lord. You are the eyes by which I need to see the Lord. You are the axe with which I need to cut the entanglement. I am entangled. I am so fallen, so you please enlighten me. So this draws the mercy of the Lord, and Lord Kapila is starting to explain out of his mercy. He explains the Sankhya philosophy. So he names it as Adhyatmika Yoga, and that's coming up in next chapter. He puts it in Bhakti is one element of Adhyatmika Yoga. Next element is Jnana. The next element is Ashtanga Yoga. So that's why the beginning of this teachings of Lord Kapila will begin by expanding and explaining and glorifying the process of devotional service. Bhakti is independent of karma and jnana. It doesn't need karma and jnana to be successful. To make the practitioner of bhakti can do exclusive devotion to the Lord and get a love of God, and the getting out of the material world happens as a byproduct. That's not his goal. So, glories of devotional service is being brought out in that chapter. However, I was reading in the Subodhini, an inquisitive person wants to know the process that he has to follow. An inquisitive person. But an intelligent person wants to know the process which is followed by other paths as well. So that's why Mother Devahuti, I want to know about bhakti, I also want to know about the other paths. And then again Lord Kapila finally will explain the exclusive devotion that you have to follow. Some of the glories of the bhakti, as one of the glory which we discuss is, it's not dependent on other process, it is independent, and just by following pure devotional service one can attain the kingdom of God. Another glory which Lord Kapila brings out is, bhakti is exclusive devotion is powerful enough to dissolve your subtle body. He gives the analogy is given as that of a fire digests the food. In the same way, pure devotional service can dissolve your subtle body, which is what the yogis and jnanis are trying to do. So the same goal is achieved, and more than that is achieved by following bhakti. This is how Sankhya philosophy, Sankhya Yoga, first glorifies bhakti. Because devotees are following devotional service, which is a glorious process, they are glorious. And because Sankhya Yoga makes one firmly fixed in devotional service, as said by Prabhupada in today's purport, Sankhya Yoga makes one firmly fixed in devotional service. Sankhya, enunciated by Kapila Muni, is meant to establish one firmly in devotional service. So just to reiterate, bhakti is glorious, devotees who are following the process of devotional service they are glorious, they are honored. Sankhya Yoga is helping you to be firmly established in devotional service, and it brings out the glories of bhakti and the bhaktas. Therefore, Sankhya Yoga brings honor to the devotees. Is that clear? Because it helps one establish oneself strongly in devotional service, and by glorifying the process of devotion and by glorifying devotees, Sankhya, the Lord is bringing honor to the devotees. Bhaktanam Manavardhana. This is how Lord Kapila is bringing glory to the devotees. Now, one may potentially fall into the trap. You know what? I'm following Bhakti. And Bhakti is all powerful. So, I'm also all powerful. Therefore, in the later chapters, Lord Kapila talks about the potential pitfalls. How a practitioner of Bhakti may come under the influence of the modes. It may get mixed. Bhakti mixed with the mode of goodness, passion and ignorance, and the symptoms are given. And how offenses will pull one back. It may completely take away bhakti, or it may prevent you from progressing. All of that is being described. Now, why should we hear Sankhya? One may ask, what's in it for me? One of the benefits of hearing Sankhya is that you will come out of the influence of the material modes. You will be firmly fixed, established in bhakti, and you will be able to understand yourself, Atma Gyan. You will get all of this. So, for performing bhakti better, with that as a goal, we can look at these material elements which are going to be discussed in the next few chapters. So, as I was drinking water, he is drinking water. Each time we drink water, when we understand that the taste of water is Krishna, the Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya, when we try to remember Krishna, each time we are dealing with the material elements, that's how we see each element, the potency is coming from the Lord. The earth is holding us. That potency of the earth is coming from the Lord. Water is quenching our thirst. That potency is the Lord. The smell, fragrance is coming from the Lord. Even the fire to digest our food is the Lord. So, it's not just about analysis, but being able to see the connection between those individual elements to the Lord. And how do we engage those elements? Now, you all attended Guru Puja, and some of you might attend the afternoon Arati. Why are these elements, different things being offered? What's the significance? And what's the connection between the 5 elements? Would you like to share? Okay. Ian has got it right. So, these elements are coming from the Lord. As a matter of gratitude, we are offering them back. Can you elaborate it, Ian? Okay, someone else would like to try. The Arati tray, what has it got? Let's analyze the Arati tray. What's in it? Incense. Let's take incense. Where is the incense fragrance coming from? The fragrance is coming from the sky. Close. Please try to refresh your Gita memory. Earth, very good. Punya Gandha, fragrance of earth. So it's coming from the earth. You see the connection where it's going? Each element is not just about analysis, it's also about seeing the connection and offering it to the Lord. So like that you can make the whole mapping. So this is how we see when the later parts are being discussed, very technical aspects. subtle to gross, all of that will be discussed, universal creation. We need to connect them back to the Supreme Lord and how these elements are being used in the service of Guru and Gauranga. So this will help us to be able to consciously do why we are doing what we are doing. If the consciousness is missing, then it just becomes a ritual. I was talking to Ian the other day, but as Radhanath Swami says, if you have this right spirit, then it becomes spiritual. For that purpose, we need to know what's the element, where is it coming from, how can we use it in the Lord's service. The other aspect I thought is this knowledge will also help us to keep ourselves fit, keep the body and the mind fit in the Lord's service. Our goal is not to become a perfect Ashtanga yogi doing 108 Surya Namaskars and all of that. Our goal is not that. Our goal is to do bhakti. Bhakti is active engagement, and that engagement of the senses, we need to have energy and prana, because the air is what moves the senses towards the sense object. So you need to have that life force. And for that goal, we can practice some of the aspects like prana, pranayamam and all of that, with the goal of practicing bhakti better. Now another aspect I thought is how we deal with other devotees. So other devotees are also made of gross, subtle, all of the elements are there. If their gross body or subtle body is going through some issues, we can help them out if we have proper knowledge. We can assist them. The other way of using this knowledge is when we deal with yoga practitioners of other path, we can appreciate what they're doing, what their process is, and we can find similarities between what we're doing and what they're doing, appreciate what they're doing, make friends with them, have a dialogue with them, and eventually try to bring them to path of bhakti. Because the main question being asked is, what's the sadhana for a jnana yogi? What's the sadhana for a ashtanga yogi? That's all going to come up in the next chapter. So you will know what they're practicing. And Prabhupada will touch upon this in the second chapter, 39th verse. He will touch upon how there are similarities between what Lord Krishna is teaching in the second chapter with what Lord Kapila is teaching, but there are differences also. So in this way, we can appreciate what the other yoga practitioners are doing, what their goal is, and what are the similarities, and eventually be able to make friends and bring them to the path of bhakti. So having understood how this knowledge applies to us, how we can relate and keep ourselves fit and interact with others, interact with those who are practicing other parts of bhakti, we will move on to the theme of the inner desire of the Lord. This word being used here, chikishuhu, desirous of disseminating. And before that, the word avatirnaha is being used, descended. So, what's the purpose of Lord Krishna's descent? As he tells in the Gita, why does he appear? Paritranaya vinashaya cha dushkritam. So there is a purpose for him descending. What's the purpose of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's avatirna? Anyone recollects this? Avatirna is being used in Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Avatirna kalau. Most of you will know that verse. Samarpayitum unnato ujvala rasam swabhakti shriyam. Why did Mahaprabhu appear? What's his purpose? To liberate jivas. Okay, close. Specifically, he came to give something else which others did not give. There's a specific purpose, and he tells, I need help. to give love of Godhead to others and to give this unique treasure of connecting to the Lord in the mode of separation, and also to freely give the holy name to everyone without any barriers. It said that Panchatattva broke open the treasure of love of God by loudly chanting the Sankirtan, propagating the Sankirtan. This is the inner desire to disseminate, and that's where Mahaprabhu says, I cannot do it alone and I need help. And that's when he asks for help from others. So here, the inner desire of Lord Kapila is to disseminate spiritual knowledge. The inner desire of Lord Krishna is to give this knowledge and to enlighten. The inner desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to give this knowledge, propagate Sankirtan. The inner desire of the Goswamis, that's how they get it. And the inner desire of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was do the same, and then the inner desire of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada is also to do the same. And that's why the theme of propagation, education, to disseminate comes up in the 7 purposes of ISKCON. Most of you are familiar with the 7 purposes of ISKCON. Interestingly, it's in our temple website as well. There's an article written on the 7 purposes of ISKCON. If you go through it, the theme of propagation, education, systematically propagate to the whole world, disseminate, it's there, it comes up very often. That's the mood that one has to have, because we are inheriting it from the parampara, and that's how Prabhupada ends the last line of the purport. Talks about real knowledge and real liberation. Real knowledge. It's not just the matter of metaphysics and all of that. Real knowledge. We were discussing the items of knowledge the other day. The whole list is given in the 13th chapter. This is what real knowledge is. He gives a whole list. Amanitvam, adambitam, humility, pridelessness. You have the whole list. And what's the most important item in that items of knowledge? Devotional service. You see how in the 13th chapter onwards, Lord Krishna will use a whole different way of talking. Up to 12th chapter, it's all about devotion, offer. From 13th chapter onwards, its whole way of presenting will be different. It is to attract the jnanis and then eventually say, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. Vasudeva. You have to analyze all of this and come to the point that you need to surrender to Vasudeva. So that's real knowledge and real liberation. There's a fake liberation as well. You think you're liberated, but you're not. Just by getting out of the material world doesn't mean that you're completely liberated, because the soul is active. It wants to engage in activity, so it will eventually fall down. Patanti ado, as Prabhupada many times quotes. So real liberation, muktir hitva anyata rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. Being situated in your actual constitutional position and engaging in devotional service through the process of surrender. That's real knowledge and real liberation. So thus we saw the austerities of Kardama Muni, how he attracted the Lord's mercy, the promise which the Lord gave, he is fulfilling it, and now he has appeared as Lord Kapila. Kardama glorified the Lord earlier, had a darshan earlier, now he is taking darshan of Lord Kapila, glorifying him. And then we saw how Kardama Muni gave honor. Maharaj Parikshit, he increases the honor of Pandu dynasty. Lord increases the ecstasy, so Vardhana, we saw that. We saw how Sankhya, by disseminating Sankhya philosophy, Lord Kapila is increasing the honor of the devotees. We saw what Sankhya means, Sankhya, Yoga. Then we saw the link between how Bhakti is glorious, devotees are glorious, Sankhya helps us to become fixed in Bhakti, therefore by practicing Bhakti, therefore the knowledge of Sankhya glorifies, honors the devotees' potential pitfalls. Then we also saw how we can apply this knowledge for ourselves, dealing with others, dealing with other yoga practitioners. And finally we saw the inner desire of the Lord to disseminate, and how it is the same desire is there in the Guru Parampara, and how we need to do that. So I'll end here. Any questions on what we discussed today? I'll take questions on what we discussed today. Yes, our corporate sadhu, eminent scholar, doctor. So I will have nightmares whole night, because what's the question Ravi is going to ask tomorrow? Can I answer them? That's why I came prepared with Subodhini books and all that. Veda base is ready, so. I'll take one question at a time. I'll just focus on one thing. If I'm, just get the first one. I'll prepare the answers.
Just in the beginning of the class, you mentioned that Brahmaji was actually concerned about getting binded.
Not Brahmaji, it's Kardama Muni.
You mentioned about Brahmaji giving creation.
So, creating progeny involves you're engaging in a passionate activity. So, Kardama Muni was preparing his consciousness before taking up that service. So, it is binding. However, it's good that you brought this point. Kardama Muni had an exit plan before entering Grihastha Ashram. He knows he is going to enter Grihastha Ashram, but he had an exit plan. This is the service, and for that service, for that purpose, I am entering Grihastha Ashram, and at one stage I need to quit. And that's why as soon as the children are born, he said, I'm heading off for self-realization. That's when Mother Devahuti pleads that you are leaving, there are just 9 daughters, they're going to get married and they're going to go, what about me? And that's when the next set of austerities and knowledge dissemination happens. Kardama Muni also remembers that the Lord is supposed to appear, so they go through austerities again, and then the Lord enters into the womb of Mother Devahuti. Yes, so Kardama Muni is clear about, I'm going to do this service, I'm going to enter Grihastha Ashram, however I also have an exit plan. So that's something that we can learn. Does that answer your question?
The question I wanted to ask is, how is it actually binding? If you actually draw a corollary between
The activity, what is binding in? I didn't get the question.
he was actually afraid that he would actually be, I think that's what, as I understood, you mentioned in the earlier class. The thing I'm actually trying to understand is when Krishna or his one of his spiritual expansions give an instruction that's like on a transcendental platform.
Yes.
It could like, Krishna gave instruction to Arjuna.
Yes.
Like, okay, you kill all these people. But he also showed that you won't actually get caught, in this like material place. You won't actually incur any sin.
So your question is, Lord Krishna is giving an order at the transcendental level. How is it that we will get bound by following his instructions? Yeah, I think I heard this example in this temple only. Maybe Ganesham Prabhu or somebody else was quoting. The scenario is this. Outside it's raining heavily. Your temple president is asking you that you need to go to the shop 10 blocks away and buy some veggies. We urgently need veggies for boga. There's no boga in these. So you have different options. One is you got the instruction, you run out, go, buy the groceries. It's raining heavily, mind you, what will happen? You're not taking any protection, you're just running. What will happen? Yeah. You've done the service, you brought the boga, but next day when some other service needs to be done, you're not well. The other second option is, it's raining outside, I can't go, sorry. What's the third option? take an umbrella. What else?
So common sense has to dictate at that position.
Yeah,
You've been given
a service.
strength, so you have to have the ability to do the common sense. And
Yeah.
you have the raincoat.
You wear a raincoat, yeah? Good point. So you're not disobeying the order. At the same time, you know what's involved, and you know that it's not just about one day firecrackers. We are meant to be like candles which can burn for a longer period. So we need to know. You will get wet a little bit. It's unavoidable because it's pouring outside. You take an umbrella, it's going to protect you a little bit. You know what's the risk is involved, and you are taking proper precautions and doing the service and come back. So, and that's the whole point, that even though the instructions are given at the level of the Lord, even Lord Brahma, when he knows that he has to create, he prays to the Lord that let me not be overcome by this process of creation. The Lord assures it. And this is also a way we can connect to the Lord, by praying to the Lord. I'm going to do this service, kindly help me. Think of me and fight. So then you'll not get reaction. But if you forget Krishna while fighting, then we get reaction. This is not disobeying, but being cautious. And then of course you need to follow, while executing practical devotional service, you need to follow the rules of this material world. Like there is a 40 zone, you go in 40, 60 zone, you go in 60, 80 zone, you go in 80. You're aware of all of that. You know what? I'm doing bhakti, bhakti is transcendental, beyond rules, 80 zone I'll go in 100. And guess who's going to pay the fine if you're working for the temple? So, yeah, that way. Anyone else? Any other question before I take the second question? No? Yes. How bhakti is beyond the influence of the three modes. Okay. Now, when you want to extricate yourself from this material world, the process that you are following has to come from a person who is beyond this material world. And that process is the process of bhakti. Because it's directly given by the Lord, and He assures you that when you practice bhakti, I will take responsibility of taking you out. Mrityu samsara vatmanat. So He says, I will take responsibility. That's the unique aspect of bhakti, where the practitioner is not taking the responsibility on himself to extricate himself. So he surrenders to the Lord, and the Lord takes care, because Lord is beyond the modes. The process is giving, the bhakti process is powerful enough to take you out of the modes. And when you practice it, slowly you come out of the influence of the three modes. So it is at the platform of pure goodness. We are eventually getting there. So that's why the process of bhakti is beyond the three modes. So this is, we are talking about pure devotion. There could be mixed devotion, and that's when you come under the modes. Any other question? Yes.
Thank you very much for the very nice thoughts.
Thank you.
So we know that practice is independent.
Which is independent?
So we know that practice is independent.
Practice of bhakti.
It's
Yeah.
practice independent of
Independent of karma and jnana. Yeah. Yeah.
So and then as a jiva soul, we go through so many different lifetimes to actually come to a point to attaining or start the practice of bhakti.
Yeah.
And then there's aspects of bhakti security as well, right? So at what time, what actually makes the jiva soul so
Take up bhakti.
lucky, and what point, we could be like in so many cockroaches bodies to be
Yeah.
like human. What actually makes us so lucky to actually get this bhakti security to actually start the bhakti path?
Yeah, Mataji's question is, process of bhakti is glorious. the jiva soul being caught up in this material world for many lifetimes, how does or when does it start practicing bhakti? Actually, you partly answered your question, because Sukriti is, so Kriti is action, Sukriti is good actions, pious actions, and when these Sukritis are done towards a devotee or for a devotional purpose, you are doing it, and when it is done consciously, it gives benefit. When it is done unconsciously also, it gets benefit. So Agyata Sukriti is when you're doing all those Sukritis without knowing that you're doing them. So your devotee walks past and you give him a donation, or you buy him a jacket, or you give some donation for the temple, or you get a milk for the lordships. You're doing it gradually over a period of time because you're a pious person, you want to go to temple. So over a period, this account of Agyata Sukriti builds up, and then you get faith. So that's when your bhakti begins. So the precursor to all of this, first bhakti begins with faith, and prior to that you have done a lot of Agyata Sukriti, and then when it matures, it becomes faith. Then you'll start to have faith in the process, and the whole thing begins, sadhu sangha, then your faith increases like that. Does that answer your question? Yeah, okay.
Also, like sometimes I see souls in animals' body, and they get to somehow associate with devotees or have prashadam,
Yeah.
or in some association.
So souls in animal's body. Okay, so the question is?
So, like, you know, so how did they get lucky? Is that because maybe they had a human body?
Yeah, so Agyata Sukriti is just one option. So then there is the costless mercy of the devotee and the Lord. He may interfere and the devotees can interfere. And that's why few days ago this point was discussed about how Haridas, when Lord Chaitanya was concerned, Haridas Thakur was consoling. It was you who was mentioning? Bhava Prabhu? Somebody was mentioning that Haridas Thakur is consoling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that even the non-moving beings in the body of trees and animals, they are getting benefited by the Sankirtan process. So they are able to hear, and that's how they increase. The other instance is Mahaprabhu giving his remnants directly to a dog, and we also have instances of Sripad Ramanujacharya giving his remnants to the fishes, and then these things happen. Then the animals in the dham, they are there because of a specific purpose, and that's their last birth, and then that's how they go back. The Lord can interfere and do those things. And interestingly, His Holiness Janananda Maharaj has written books on animals in Krishna consciousness or something like that, where you will see an example of a bull is given, where the bull comes and every day sits and listens Bhagavatam class in a village or somewhere. And once the venue was changed, it was not informed, but it still found its way and came there. So, yeah, these are the ways by which, yeah. We'll probably end here, it's 9 o'clock. Thank you, feel expressing my gratitude again for giving this opportunity to glorify the Lord and the devotees. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.